Alright, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to start linking our database to our Blogify, right? And that will be basically our exercise and the practice video for the databases too. And the reason behind that is that we could have made like a separate app to practice them first, but that actually requires setting up a lot of other things too. Like we'll have to set up the routes, we'll have to set up new files and all of them. So it's better to just do it with Blogify rather than doing the same thing twice, right? So let's just start with it. So here I have my Gurm ID open. I have nothing running right now. No node, no Mongo, right? So first off, I'll do, you can see I'm in the web dev course directory, right? So now I'll move into the Blogify directory. And I see I have these all things here. So first of all, let's just open our app.js and see where we were when we left off, right? So we had used body parser and we had this data. So removing this data and doing everything with a Mongo database is our main aim for today, right? So great. So then we had these 4 routes. One was a get route for slash, which was our home route, right? And blogs was our index route. Blog/new was rendering a form, and then /blogs as a post was adding a new thing to our data array, right? Great. So now let's convert all of this to a database, right? So first of all, before we can do that, it's obvious that we need to install mongoose, right? So I'll do npm i-s mongoose, and we'll wait for that to finish. Great. So mongoose has been installed, and now we can start doing whatever we want to. So first off, before we forget later and get big errors in Mongo, I'm going to do a new terminal window. And then I'll run Mongo. Alright, so it has started. Excellent. So now we are in our app.js and we want to replace this data. But before we can even start doing that, you should remember that we have 3 steps, right? So I'll move this down, right? So our 3 steps are first, connect to DB. Next, make schema. And next, we have to do make mod, right? But before any of this, we have to require it. Const mongoose is equal to require mongoose. Great. So now we have required mongoose, and the next thing that we're going to do is connect to the database. So I'm going to do mongoose.connect, and if you remember, the string was mongodb : localhost 27017 / and the name of our database will be Blogify, right? And the 2 properties that we had to give in here were use new URL parser to get rid of the deprecation warnings. If you remember, we were getting them. I'm sure you did not remember these 2. The second was use unified public. I'm sure you did not remember these 2. The names definitely not, because you have not used them ever. But the thing is that you don't even need to remember. I naturally remember because I've used them so many times. But getting a warning and then seeing what was happening and then just adding them later on does not harm you in any way, right? So anyway, so we have done mongoose.connect. The next is we're going to make a schema for the posts, right? So let's do that, and it will be const post schema is equal to, and that will be mongoose.schema, and remember to have a capital S here, right? Small s would not work. And then here we give a schema. So we have a title that is a string, then we have the content, which is also a string. So our schema is now ready, and the last thing that we need to do is make a model, right? So we have to do const post is equal to, it needs to be mongoose dot model, and we'll pass in post because we want our collection to be named posts, right? Or I'm gonna rename all of this to blog, right? Because post, I don't like using the word post in such scenarios, right? So blog schema, and this will be blog, and this will be blog. So remember that the first letter is capital, and this is a singular form. So basically, by this, the collection would be named blogs, right? And then the next thing that we need to pass is the schema, right? So I'll pass the blog schema. Great. So now we have done our basic 3 steps for connecting the database to our Node.js file. And the next thing that we can do is actually we can start modifying the database according to our need inside these routes, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this data array. And I'm going to let this be here, right? The data. And the only difference that we'll have is that we'll calculate this data inside this function only, right? Great. So, all right. So now we're gonna do so inside the get route, right? We want to render the home, and inside the home, if you remember, we were printing all of these out one by one. So we need to now have this data inside this get route because we have removed the array. So how do we do that? So let's do this model is named blog. So I'll do blog dot find and then an empty array, right? So this will basically find all the things inside of the blog. Now, actually, the callback syntax that we have used is now not necessarily the thing that you have to do. So first, I'll show you the working thing with the callback syntax, and then I'll show you the new syntax which was introduced later on. So first of all, inside the blog.find, if you remember, empty passing means find everything, right? And then we'll give our function which will be error, and then we'll be receiving our let's call that data, right? Because what we are receiving is what we need to send here. So this will be data, and then we'll make it an arrow function, and then we'll move this in here, right? So of course we need to add the error check first. Right. So great, yeah. So we have done console.log error and then res.render home, in which the data is basically the thing that we're getting here, right? Excellent. So now let's try to open the home page. First off, I'll open NodeMod. Actually, we should not get anything in this right now because we don't have anything. But let's just see if we are getting any errors. And if we are not getting any errors, then we'll then configure this post route, and then we'll get this, right? Running URL import. Okay. I get this is the home page, and I don't get any LIs at all because our blogs database is actually empty. So anyway, we didn't get any error means our data is actually being found, right? And to check again, we could do console.log data. And if the route is working properly, then we should expect to see an empty array down here when I refresh the page. I refresh and I see an empty array, meaning that my route has been connected successfully. So now the next thing that I want to configure is this post route, right? Because this is the create portion of the CRUD, right? So first of all, if I visit this right now, I'll see a form, and I'll visit /blogs/new. On like pressing this right now, we'll get an error, and that is because we are doing data.push here, while data does not exist, right? So we need to change this, but this was just to open up the form to see what all we have to do. So when we are posting, we are getting something in the rec.body, which is basically the title and the content. So then what we need to do is we need to add that to our database, right? So we have done const new post is equal to rec.body, and instead of data.push new post, we are going to do blog dot create new post. Then we'll have the error and the created blog, right? Which will be an arrow function. We'll do if error console.log error. Otherwise, we'll just do res dot. So let's also do console.log created blog, right? And then I'll move this one up here. And currently, actually, the thing is that this res.redirect blog will give an error because inside the blogs we are using data which is not actually present. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this exact thing in here, right? Because we do have to find inside the blogs and then we have to print that out. And then I'll do index here. Now you might be thinking that the home and blogs are actually the same yet, but the thing is that we'll eventually limit the number of entries in the home page, and second, the styling will be much different, right? And you'll see the difference between them as we move along. For now, when we have like only 2 or 3 entries and no styling, then they will be the same, right? There's no rejecting that fact. So great. So now if I visit this page and I do title, and the content will be this is my first post. Actually, the content will always be a really big thing, right? And like it will not be something that you should have in a single this. So we'll change this to be like a big box sometime later. Plus, we'll also have like the rich text editor inside of this. We'll have like options for bolding, for underlining, for making lists, and all of those things, so that this can be a proper blog as you want it to be, right? And then we'll use some APIs in that too. But for now, we can just leave this like this because we're adding only test data. So now you see I have my first post added here with that, and that is actually through my Mongo database. And you can see it was also printed to the console. So now to show you the actual difference, earlier if we refresh the server, our new posts vanished. But now even if I refresh the server, they are still here. And even if I visit /, I'm getting the post. Meaning my post has been added to my database. And just to check, I'll open another terminal. I'll do window, new terminal window. I'll let that open up. I'll do Mongo. And now this will be, right, so we'll do show DBs. Then I'll do use Blogify. Then I'll do show collections. You can see I currently have one collection which is blogs, and just to tell you that in the end we'll have multiple collections because I'm aiming to also add comments to these blogs, right? Any user will have the option to comment on the blog, and you will also have users, right? So user will also be in the database, so that's also a separate collection. Now I'll do db.blogs.find, and I have the thing present right here. So you can see how now I've connected the things, and the main like the main functionalities of the pages have been added, right? And now there's just one more route that we need to add, and that is the show route for a particular blog, right? And the reason that I had not shown that before is that it uses the concept of the Mongo ID, right? And ID you did not know before we had studied the databases. So in the next video, we'll just simply add that route. It will not be a really big video. And after that, we can actually start with the styling of Blogify, right? The routes that we've made till now. We'll style them decently enough, and then we'll move on to next other things, right? Excellent. So that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.